Have you ever wondered where the term little green men from space came from? Or wondered where they got the idea for gremlins? If so, this video is for you. Welcome back to Gam Catches Up. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everybody for tuning in and watching my videos, liking, sharing, subscribing, hitting the notification bell, and supporting the channel. And I'd also like to apologize for not having this video done sooner. I had a minor issue with my jaw last week and didn't really have an opportunity to record the next video. So I figured I'd take the week off, heal up, and here we are. One of the things with doing this is I have to put in time to research what story I'm going to tell next. And I'm fortunate my wife has been heavily into cryptozoology most of her life. And she's collected a ton of books on the subject. So that's usually what I go through, or I'll talk to her and she'll suggest a topic to me. Because it's her library, she goes and pulls the books and says, here you go, here's the information you need. And just to give you an idea of how much research actually goes into each of these videos, today's video is actually 5 different books. The stories vary in different ways, so I have to figure out which one seems to have complementary facts between them so that I can tell you the best, most precise story I can. When it comes to cryptids in particular, there's a chance of it being a hoax or people lying, trying to make themselves famous for whatever reasons. But I want to present as much fact and substance as I can, because if that story is true and not a lie or a hoax, then it's definitely worth investigating. So without further ado, here's the tale of the Kelly Hopskinville Goblins. Early in the evening of August 21st, 1955, Billy Ray Taylor, who was originally from Pennsylvania, was in the small town of Kelly, Kentucky, visiting his friend Elmer Lucky Sutton at his farmhouse, and they didn't have indoor plumbing, so he went outside to the well to go get himself a drink of water. He heard this hissing sound above him and looked up to see this bright red light shoot across the sky, and he said that it had a tail that looked like all the colors of the rainbow, and it didn't make a crash or a boom, but it landed in a gulch just behind the farmhouse. Seeing this, he freaks out, runs inside, and goes and tells Lucky what he just saw, as well as everybody else that was in the house. There was a total of 8 adults and 3 children in the house, and he's carrying on about, I just saw this happen. Everyone in the house is basically laughing at him and making fun of him, and yeah, right, oh, you're such a jokester and everything else. So no one goes to investigate it. And about an hour passes, it's about 7 o'clock at night, and all of a sudden, they start hearing their hunting dog barking, but kind of this weird, scared bark. They look out the window and they see the hunting dog go running underneath the house and realize something is approaching our house. So Lucky Sutton and Taylor go out the back door where the dogs just run in from and look and can't believe what they see. Staring at them, they see this luminous little figure. He's 3.5 foot tall, has an oversized head, big floppy pointed ears, his eyes are glowing, and he has hands with talons at the end, and his feet are not touching the ground. The creature's skin was this silvery color, and they thought it might be like a spacesuit. It was actually reflecting the foliage around it. And it had its arms raised in the air, kind of like it was surrendering or a peaceful kind of display. Lucky and Taylor didn't take any time at all. They popped back in the house and immediately came back out with a .22 caliber rifle and a shotgun and just started firing shots at this thing. The creature, which was floating, like I said, its feet weren't touching the ground. As soon as the bullets came close to it, it seemed like it just did backflips away and then suddenly just disappeared into the darkness behind it. Both Lucky Sutton and Taylor headed back into the house, slammed the door behind them, and now everybody in the house kind of started to arm themselves, except for the children who ran upstairs to hide. And a few minutes later, they weren't sure if it was the same creature or a different creature, all of a sudden popped up staring in one of the side windows. And J.C. Sutton, Lucky's brother, and Taylor both fired on it at almost point-blank range. Once again, the creature did this kind of backflip and just disappeared into the darkness or around the side of the house. They just lost sight of it. Another one popped up in another window, and Cecil Sutton fired at it, and he actually hit the creature, knocked it down, but after a few minutes, the creature stood up and ran away. So now, the house was under full assault. About a dozen goblins were now crawling around on all fours all around the house, popping their heads up in windows, trying the doorknob, trying to figure a way to get in. And the people inside, the Suttons and Taylor, were just firing guns off left and right, shooting at these things, trying to get rid of them. At one point, when it looked like the coast was clear, Taylor opened the door and tried to leave the house, and one of the goblins was actually up on the roof, reached down and grabbed his hair, and he ran back inside after popping a couple shots up at it. This went on for 4 hours. 4 long hours, these human beings shot from inside their house to the outside, battling these goblins. And it seemed like every shot they took, the goblins would either dodge the bullet, or when they were actually hit by one, they would simply curl up, roll with the force of the impact, and it seemed like not a single one of the goblins was ever injured. Finally, after this 4-hour-long battle, it seemed like everything was calm, everything was quiet, and the goblins had retreated. Everybody in the house gathered together and made a mad dash out the door. They jumped into their trucks and drove directly to the local police station and reported the entire incident to the police. When they arrived at the police station, the witnesses were in such a state of hysteria that the police chief, Russell Greenwell, said it was evident something beyond reason and not ordinary had frightened them. Lucky Sutton and Taylor led 4 cops back to the farmhouse, and on the way there, they actually checked Taylor's pulse, and it was at 140 beats per minute, or double what the normal pulse rate should be. The cops, Lucky Sutton and Taylor, all went around the farmhouse looking for any evidence, and other than all the casings and bullet damage and everything else from where the battle had ensued, they didn't find any evidence of the goblins. And they walked around and searched around till about 3:30 in the morning, and then called it quits, sent the rest of the family back home. Everybody came back and kind of went to sleep. Cecil Sutton, still wound up from all the excitement, couldn't sleep, and he went to the kitchen to get some food, looked out the window, and sees a goblin peering in the window at him. He quickly grabs a gun and fires a pair of shots at it, waking everybody in the house up. Everybody hopped up, quickly got to arms, and they held down the house, and the last sighting of the goblins was actually around 4:45 a.m., and they seemed to disappear as the dawn of the next day started. Once again, they ran back, got the cops. The cops came back out. They didn't find any evidence of any goblins, just a lot more bullet holes and casings. This time, besides the cops, reporters came out. Some people from the military came out. Specifically, the U.S. Air Force's Project Blue Book came out. Some of the military investigators decried the whole affair as hysteria or a hoax. A lot of the Sutton's neighbors decried the whole incident and just dismissed it as a drunken debacle and was the result of drinking too much moonshine. The police that had actually gone with them back to the farmhouse and were there on the scene said, no, none of them were drunk. We would have noticed. However, there was a sheriff from a nearby town that had joined the policemen the second time that they had actually gone to him. And he said that everybody was drunk And some of them were tossing a cat onto a screen door to scare the people inside. He was actually quoted as saying, "When I saw the Sutton's daughter reach up and pull that cat off the screen and the cat scream, I knew then that there was the Martian." But others have shot down that theory, saying that Glennie Langford, who was Lucky Sutton's mother and was there for the whole incident, didn't allow alcohol or even cursing on her property, and that the whole of the Sutton clan was a very quiet and very trustworthy family. And for their part, the Suttons never backtracked on their story or anything else. If anything, they started trying to charge admission to have people come to the farmhouse to see where the little green men were. Their neighbors weren't too happy about this, though, and a few days later, the Suttons would decide, hey, we're getting out of here, and they left Kelly for good. The incident and all the media coverage on it helped to solidify the ideas of aliens as little green men in pop culture. Even though Taylor and all the Suttons described the aliens as little silver men, all the newspapers at the time ran with little green men instead, and that may be because the idea of green aliens has been around since the 1920s when science fiction really became popular. None of the living witnesses to the incident will even talk about or discuss it now, with the exception of Geraldine Sutton Stith, the daughter of Lucky Sutton. Every year in Kelly, Kentucky, they have this festival called Little Green Men, and it's there that she actually speaks at the annual event. She's also written 2 books about the whole encounter, Alien Legacy, which came out in 2007, and The Kelly Green Men, Alien Legacy Revisited, which came out in 2015. It's also believed that Steven Spielberg drew some inspiration from this tale and used it in crafting the movies E.T. the Extraterrestrial and Gremlins. So what do you guys think? Was this some kind of drunken debacle hoax? Was it just mass hysteria? Was there a group of escaped circus monkeys that somehow got in around their farm and they just lost their minds and thought they were seeing things? Do you think it was really aliens from outer space? Let me know in the comments. Although I will give you one food for thought on this. The U.S. Air Force's Project Blue Book, and they were founded to examine all possible UFO sightings, studied this case extensively, and they ultimately came to the conclusion that the case and the event were just marked as unexplained. So that's today's story, and I hope you enjoyed it. I thank you for listening, and if you did enjoy it, do me a favor. Please give the video a like, share it with a buddy or a friend who might enjoy this type of story. Subscribe to the channel, I'll still have more content coming. Hit the notification bell, it'll let you know when I post more videos. One last note before I go. I just wanted to say thank you to my wife, who supports me and hands me all this cool research to do. I truly couldn't do this without her. So, until next time, I'm Gam, and I'll see you next time.